Hello, Allahu Akbar. My name is Abbas Tamori. Today's 20th November, time is 10:48, 10:41. Long time no see, I guess. I was very busy. Had a project on some building. I bought a house and fixed it and whatnot. Getting old, tired. My mind was occupied with other matters. I couldn't attend to continue this mission. So there are a lot of issues I want to talk about. I will have to talk about China, India. There will be a series what we call Baha'i faith in defense of Hinduism and Buddhism. And especially I want to talk about Germany. And I will have an open letter to Universal Laws of Justice. As well as finally, if I could, depending on situation, I would, I promised, continue that Persian program. Starting to teach you a bit about the grammar. But right now I want to go back to the previous topics about the Baha'i faith in the human psyche. I talked to you before about the principles of parallel existence, and definitely if you want to continue, if you want to follow what I'm going to say, I would suggest to go back to the previous one about the human psyche. I had to go myself because I didn't know what I was talking about before. And as I went on, I found out I mentioned the name Montesquieu, the French philosopher. Actually what I meant is Descartes. He was the dualistic. He believed both in the soul and the body. And the British, they wouldn't accept him at that time. So there's a lot of flaws like that when I take about dates, names, because I do not edit it. When I edit the program, then the spirit of it goes. Right now as I speak, with it comes my feeling, and it's genuine. But when you go correct it and do this and that, then it becomes artistic. It has an artistic value to it. This is why Bob would never, edit himself. What came at that time, it was right there. So, in that tradition, I'll continue as I've been so far. I'm going to talk today about the second important principle, without which we would not be able even to understand human and function in reality properly. And that would be the principle of alignment, relationship, and anchoring. So I've written a few things here so I remember what I was saying from the past. If you remember last time, I mentioned that the phenomenal world, this word, material world, always follows by a design. It is impossible to be without a design. This duality is everywhere. Without having two, there's a problem. Always there has to be two things. So, which we call it original, the beginning of the universe, we call it prime matter and prime will. The two essence of matter and essence of metaphysic is there. So, and then I came to the human being and I said that we do have a material body that would have to be created, assembled within a possibility, which is the design of our body, that all the body and features we have is based on that genetic patterns, which is a design. But then I said soul of human being has the power of conceptualizing, and that soul is independent from the body of the man, but in a relationship with it, just like a person who is using a computer. The computer itself has a hardware, and then it has design for that hardware, yet there is a software on it, but the software itself has a design. So as us. Our body is a hardware, has a design for this hardware, call it the animal spirit, which combines with all of the properties of the matter, vegetable, animals. Then we have the spirit of man, which is not because of that this body is this shape. No, because of that this body, this is the way the body thinks and follow his life. That is not the reason of his body, but the reason of his soul. Now, that one, I said, has willpower in it, and there's only one willpower, and that seems to be not created, but kind of born out of God, just like our children. They're not our creation, but they're born of our self. It's not cloning, but it needs two agents of the mother and father to have the child. This is the same thing in this universe, that God has manifested, that's the best way to say it, something of himself in us, because of which we can talk, we can conceptualize, we can decide, we can change the world. And naturally that needs an operation system, isn't it? So the computer is good, the design is great, but the operation system, if it is an MS-DOS, well, it won't work. It can't do what we're doing right now with MS-DOS. So when we talk about human soul, I said that the will of human being is hijacked, is affected by many things, and it is not the design of his body, because if it is designed by the body would not want to smoke and drink and this and that. But it seems something forced the body to do that. That's the owner of the body, that is the soul making him. But why would the soul do that? Why would the soul hurt the body? We only have one reason to say that the operation system is flawed. In this case, I said like MS-DOS. Who are we? We are the child of our environment, of our custom, of religion, of the setup that we are in. When a Muslim comes from Iran, or I don't know, Saudi Arabia, if he thinks man and women have no equal right, it's simply because he was born there. And he's grown up, so his will has been written. His file has been written, the character has been written by others, before even he has any power into it. It seems 99% of us, really, is not us. It's like a matrix system. They install all kinds of things in our head. When we watch TV, when we watch movies in Hollywood, every one of these things gets downloaded into the brain, whether we want it or not, and subconsciously it affects during the day our decisions and everything else. People are so much into. I was watching the program, the rerun of the Star Trek Next Generation, and there was about an engineer, an officer, that he always wanted to go to the holodeck and in there to be with his imaginations, because there he had all the power. He would recreate the characters, the daily characters in there, and overcome them. But when it comes back, he was not able to actually face the reality. So much of us in the West is under the influence of Hollywood that so very really feed us the actual imaginations. All these movies, Iron Man, this and that, they're not bad. They're great. It can make the imagination to fly, but there's so much of it that people, they've lost the touch with reality. The kids, they just don't want the reality. To them, reality is not good. They want to go into cyberspace. The social media, which is anti-social media, these owners of these bastards of the history of mankind, they're completely taking over the will of the people, and they don't tell them, you know. So much of it is useful, the rest of it is not. So, as a result, we're kind of off balance, all of us. I said that, even myself. A crazy person is a person who hurt himself. How can a person hurt himself? Then he's not aware of it. Then he is off balance. You can just say that with a certain degree is crazy. But who is not then crazy? The entire world is. All of us. None of us work with 100% efficiency. None of us. So what do? Here comes the Baha'i faith. It has two aspects. See, God teach us, it has put this in the system, in the universe, that I said there are a few ways that we can learn. From the very beginning, let's say when we're in cave, is that every action has a reaction. We put our hand on the fire, it burns, and put our hand out. Then, as an experience, we know that we should not touch fire. And so on and so forth. That's one way. By the trial and error, we can learn. But it took a long time. So many thousands of years, mankind, through this program of the trial and error, wouldn't get anywhere. And the system of God, he brought this, decided he himself manifest himself according to the capacity of the people within them to be their leader, no bigger than that, just their leader, to guide them and to teach them. In the course of time, as man learned more, God, give them bigger curriculum, to the point that he brought these religions, basically call it a window, a new window every time, the window of Christianity, the window of Judaism, and so on and so forth that I've already discussed with you. And today he brought these new windows of Baha'i faith. If we don't install this window, we will not be able to operate. And we will definitely fail in our relationship, in our success, in every damn thing that we want. For example, as a Baha'i, Baha'u'llah said, don't drink. We do, all of us in the West. The result of it has been so many thousands of lives have lost, and so many thousands of people have become dysfunctional and sick and everything else. So of course, if you don't drink, you function better. Show me, you know it, this is more than evident. Anybody in the West comes from a family that don't drink, or at least that much, they have more control of their life. Same is with the smoking, same as with the other things. With our eating, with everything that we do. Our willpower is hijacked. So Baha'i faith is coming to give us the willpower, so we become in charge. His system does have dictatorship in it. We say democracy. It doesn't work. It works to a certain extent. Democracy fails. majority of the people in the society, in any given society, there are only few thinkers, there are only few geniuses. Not all of them are. Well, the majority then, in any given society, are more. Their number is way more than the real geniuses, the real leaders. Well, in a democracy, since everybody has equal right, those guys have no power. The vote of a scientist and a fellow from downtown or a drug addict, it's the same thing. In this case, majority rules based on what the majority wants, without any pattern, without any guidelines. Things are not working well. Well, then they created constitutions, social laws. Usually those things are written by scientists or whatnot. And mostly it's been done in the past where mankind was a lot healthier, including the Constitution of the United States of America. It was written by people such as Jefferson and Washington and those guys. Well, they were immaculate people in their life. Their willpower is so big. And this is what we are nourishing from the past. Today, Americans to get rid of a constitution or write a new constitution right now, it will be flawed so badly that the society will completely crumble down. So, but then, what do? I just brought the word dictatorship. In the Baha'i faith, which is a very important hallmark of the Baha'i faith, it has not come to replace any social order or economical order. In the Baha'i faith, it doesn't matter if you are living under the Constitution of Australia or America or Iran. It all is irrelevant to it. They're fine. They're all fine. Nobody acts upon it. These are the ideals that's written by the fellow human being that another human being becomes his slave. It doesn't work. When a man obeys another man, it becomes his slave. When animal listens to man, because man is a degree higher than animal can improve. They can learn the skills. The other animals in the jungle, they don't know that. So one man is equal to another man. When it obeys another man, immediately it reduces to subhuman. Obedience to the man, one man from another man, it becomes subhuman, subservient. Baha'u'llah is aware of this. God is aware of this. This is why he's a different species of existence, of thinking. I've spoken about this before. This is why obedience to that makes us higher, sort of like teacher and a student in a class. Obedience of a student in a class doesn't make the student to go down, it makes him to go higher. Because teacher doesn't want him to obey him for his own sake. They want him to obey to pass the class. It's a sort of relationship like that, like the mother and a little child. When a baby or child, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, 5 years, listens to the mother in the life, he'll be safe. God is that kind of a relationship. Because it's higher, it's bigger, obedience to it is a requirement. But then who's the dictator? People, they don't hate religion because they say, you guys coming in now, creating another crazy religion from Middle East. Why is that? Because we have to follow this Ayatollah, that Mullah, this Chacham, I don't know, that Swami, this priest, this father. No. Baha'i faith has eliminated all of that. In the Baha'i faith, there's dictatorship in personal life of a person, but the dictator is the man himself. Admonition of any kind is forbidden in the Baha'i faith. We can't say to people what to do or what not to do. If they ask, we will. But if they don't, we just don't volunteer to go and tell them. It's forbidden. But by studying the Baha'i faith, by accepting this relationship, then we follow this general rule. Now we can marry and have great marriages. Why? Because one of the things that destroyed the marriages in North America that I've seen is adultery. Well, the Baha'is, before they marry, they believe in Baha'u'llah. Therefore, because of it, their belief, they wouldn't do that adultery. Before marriage or after marriage. One little girl, I remember, trying and said, "What's wrong with sex?" I told him nothing. Except if you want to marry. She said, "Well, one day I marry." I said, "Yeah. But one day you marry and your son is hearing the guy who's talking about his mother's private parts because the guy had sex with you and your son now hears it. Well, that brings that child of yours so much down to know that his mother actually had sex with nobody. Not his father, other people beside the father as well. Well, that destroys the spirit of the child. You can have sex as much as you want, as long as you don't want to marry. If you want to marry, children will get affected later on by your previous life, past life. The other thing that destroys the marriage, narcotics of all kind, cheating, lying, a lot of things. Since Baha'is don't do that, I'm not saying the Baha'is do or don't, but I'm saying that we're not supposed to. If we follow this formula of God, then things works. Now we marry and we don't have these essential problematic problems are out. It's more like we're driving on a highway, not on a trail. Religion of God is that highway. So when you look at a computer, as I said, you have a brand new computer and you're putting a software of a old software on it. The whole computer becomes useless. A modern computer of many gigabytes have MS-DOS installed on it. It cannot operate. The society of Roman and Arabia and those days, for the size and the conception and the power they had, these religions, they acted like Windows and they were operating very well. But today, it's crazy to have the North American society run under the windows of God, Christianity, or Islam. None of it is acceptable. None of it is scientific. None of it can be followed. And what is the force that we say to God, no, we don't want your new religion, we want to go to your old religion. Why? Because we're failing in a class? How can a man mature man send him to school to grade 1 and tell him go read A, B, C, D? Even though he can't talk, he cannot read and write, but he can't sit down in school with those kids. He has to somehow learn it differently because he has wisdom. He has grown up. Therefore, we need an acceptable, international, a practical idea that all the planet can accept it. Baha'i faith is related many ways to all the social orders in the world. Read it, study it, and you know it. To all the religions. It seems there's a real common ground where we can come together. If we do all of a sudden, imagine at a social level, we'll have one international government and no army. Who can kill anybody then? Who can waste things? Who can destroy the environment in their own country? When the world becomes one international order, not undermining the sovereignty of the federal governments in the world, no, but over and above what we have as an state government, as a federal government, over and above them we have an international agreement by which we disarm the world. So if you do that, terrorism is gone. A lot of misunderstandings are gone. So this is a very important principle that we have to realign our society to its proper software. But in the personal life, is so important for all of us to have a proper psyche that works well. We have to know who the maker is, who the revealer is, what is our relationship to Baha'u'llah, which is the manifestation of God, and get close to the reality. Install that in our heart, in our head. Then our willpower, which is hijacked by Hollywood figures, Hollywood characters, they literally install nicotine in your brain, and then you have no way to keep smoking. If you have that installed, our willpower operates very well. This so-called sicknesses, what we have is gone. I mentioned to you about the guy, Mark. Well, right now it's about a year and a half, 2 years past. This guy was in Homewood, under a lot of medications. None of them he uses it. He has a job, he gets $25 an hour. His life is completely straightened up. Completely. Mind you, he still hasn't become Baha'i, he still doesn't understand. Just like a goat in a ship that he sees the shepherd helping him, but yet he doesn't know where it's coming from. He hasn't become Baha'i, no. But I realigned, you see, his life. I enabled him as they were going to disable him. No, it's absolutely fine. And none of those doctors in Homewood, they're interested even to know. Because the entire system in West, right now, under free enterprise, is made to serve the individual without recognizing that others are a part of it. All egocentrics, eccentrics, egocentrics, selfish. It's all about me. Doctor doesn't care. Just wants to know. He follows the protocol. He gets his money. And whatever happens, happens to anybody else. He doesn't care. Because we don't have a proper meaning of what self is. We think self is myself. So myself, what myself? Myself is my kids, part of myself. My father and mother, part of myself. My family is part of myself, my society, my government, my country, the whole planet. It's all a big self. I'm just a self of this bigger self. We don't know. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that is not being put properly together. As Baha'u'llah says, I am the real doctor, the divine doctor, but there's so many other doctors, they come in and they try to write this false pseudo windows. Oh, this is what you do, this is what you do. How many of them are there? God, thousands of them in there. Imagine all these religious guys in one hand and then the other pseudo, that Robin Williams, I believe. No, I'm sorry, not Robin Williams. Tony Robbins or somebody. I remember the guy who was taking people to walk on the fire. What's the relevance of that with his daily life, his marriage, his kids? Tony Robbins talks about power means those things. Those things are not even power, or deviation from the actual power. So, I guess I wanted to answer that, which I did. There's a lot of people that say we don't Baha'u'llah, why do we need him? These things are clearly good stuff, but we don't rank him anything bigger than any other social, leader, transformer, whatever, reformer. So he's another one of them. That is not true. This is not the case. I've already spoken to you about the prophets, that there are differences between them and us. And in a very clear way, there aren't how many other peoples are there in the world to say they're a manifestation of God. They lose their life for it, and they come up with a theory such as Baha'u'llah that's all encompassing the world. And then moreover have thousands and thousands of people martyr for his idea, and yet he never writes a book for himself to charge us any money, and he suffers all his life either death or an imprisonment. This character, it does not exist. We think they are, but if we go deep, we can see that no Nelson Mandela is like that, no Gandhi is like that, none of them. They're coming to this power. And they're all human. And simply because this software are written by people, for people, therefore making people to obey other people. Naturally, some people start to exploit other people because you're obeying somebody. By obedience to him, you're empowering him, and then you get reduced. But if you're listening to your teacher, I don't know, your mother, as a kid, you can't listen to them all the time, because at one point you grow. In this case, God, our fashioner, our maker, is way, way bigger than us in matter of time speaking, infinitely older, and therefore clearly listening to such a big power is going to be useful for us. Time and again is proven. Whether we followed Christianity, we jumped, whether we followed Muhammad, Buddha, and Krishna, all of that created a civilization that today we are seeing it. The civilization that we have today is all a result of those. Baha'i faith, the impact of the Baha'i faith will be shown probably a few hundred years from now, and 1,000 years from now. At that time, this planet, there's no word of Napoleon written anywhere in it, believe me. So, this is the second principle in the human psyche, which we have to install the proper software to realign our hardware, what we have, the design, that will that's in us, to operate within a parameter. Okay? As an individual and as a society. Now, this realignment comes in, but we have to utilize it. This is where, by simply say I'm a Baha'i or I live in a Baha'i society, doesn't help us. We have to actually create a relationship with Baha'u'llah. Not only we know the Baha'i faith, we have to study to know it, but then we have to act upon it. I've told you, every time there is a certain formula. At this time, the Baha'i faith, for those who understand Baha'i faith, or they are Baha'is, they have to promulgate and start to teach this to others. The moment you do this, you get a lot of energy within you, which has no material reward, because you're not doing this for money, for anything. You're doing this, therefore it's definitely spiritual. And as it succeeds, and the people listen to you, and they change their life, and they get better, you get energy. A positive energy. The energy that they have been trying to frustrate me at the age of 60, 59 years. It's impossible for them to do it. To me, all of this is a show. How can I get frustrated by what they... But they make me deeply sad because of what they do to themselves, you see. The organization of the Baha'i faith at the level of the international level in Israel, they do not understand who I am. They don't see who's their friend, who's not. To the point that one thinks that these guys are not Baha'is. They're just simply gone up, either previously planned to get up there, or they got there and they forgot. All they're thinking to renovate their houses and spending big money to renovate it, and then their wives doesn't like it and they have to change it. So they've lost it. So we have to have that relationship, which means we have to start to relate to this teacher, to this father. Not just knowing what he says. No, we're going to do it to know him more and more. So this creates an anchoring, you know. We get anchored. Just like a person, we can go right down in the middle of the stormy ocean. But if we are anchored by a cord, we could use the cord and come back or go down. Meaning, as a Baha'i, even if you make mistakes, I've done lots of it, there's always, we know where the cord is, where I'm anchored to when I go back. I know where the real pleasure is, where I got the real pleasure. This Ali boy, 21 years now, in Toronto, was a waiter in a restaurant. Gosh, I don't know how much he was getting. Smoking, drinking, and every night probably screwing a girl. And then he saw me and he wanted to know about Baha'i faith. I talked to him and this and that. The boy changed so much that he quit smoking and quit drinking. All of a sudden decided to go into insurance. I don't know, he's right now the CEO of the insurance company, one of them anyways, in Toronto. It's unbelievable. The mutation from what he was, you know. What a giant leap he has taken to where he is. And he knows. He's not a Baha'i because people appreciate him. He's the teacher or whatever, the leader. I don't know, 50, 60 people were telling me that most of them are Baha'is. But they're all in the business of insurance though. Nothing else. That's one of my students. But I said these things right now. However, even installing the windows of the Baha'i in our personal life, in our society, we might falter. We might make mistakes. You know how you operate your computer and have a wrong button, the virus comes in, your window shut down? I'm going to talk about that cure, the spiritual cure of Baha'u'llah, and hopefully it will be useful for you. So, till the next time, I don't have much time, probably by January I gotta go, but I'll try to conclude these things for you. May God be with you. Allah Hafa.